Congressman Steve Scalise used to be an honorable man. He used to have much more than a shred of dignity. When I get into the live today, when we really start talking about it, I'm going to focus on Steve Scalise a little bit, and I'm going to use Steve's devolution as he's devolved into a pathetic, weak Trumpian halfwit, which is so sad in Scalise's case. But I'm going to use him as an example to highlight the nonsensical arguments that the banana Republicans and the right wing podcasters and the imbeciles who surround the village idiot Donald Trump are making about the vote being fake in California. But before we get into it, let me just bring the streams up so we can see everybody. Starting with Twitch. Right, we have Twitch sort of up. What's going on, Twitch? There we go. What's going on, Twitch? We've got Twitch up. YouTube. What's happening, YouTube? Let's see if we're streaming today. And we're not. YouTube, wherefore art thou, YouTube? Okay. Can't worry about it. Back to the technical drawing board tomorrow. I'll check in a few minutes and see if YouTube is there. But as of now, it's not there. But let me bounce back one more time. I'm not ready to surrender to technical failure once again. It's a work in progress. We had YouTube for a day. We really did. Okay, I have to figure out I know how to get it working again, but I don't know how to get YouTube consistently working in the live stream, in the multi-stream. So we'll save that for another day. Actually, let me just check one more place, because there's one more place where that might, and that's not the case. Okay. All right. So we're not going to worry about YouTube for now. We'll stick with Twitch and Substack. So if you're just joining us, what I introduced just a moment ago, I want to start the live talking about Steve Scalise. Steve Scalise is a senior member of Congress in the House of Representatives. He's a Republican leader. I'm not sure what I don't know if he's like the majority whip, but I don't know what particular title he is. I think he's like third in line. I think it's and again, please fact check me on it because I might be wrong. I think it's MAGA Mike Johnson, who is the Speaker of the House. I think Tom Emmer is kind of next in line. I could completely be fucking this up. And then I think Steve Scalise is kind of next in leadership. Emmer and Scalise are, we know Mike Johnson is lost. We know he's pathetic. And we know Mike Johnson is a fake evangelical Christian, basically using his faith as he cosplays as a proud evangelical, but he's nothing but an ass-kissing Trumpian political hack. He's pathetic in every sense of the word. Tom Emmer, who used to be a dignified member of Congress. I remember when I was a cryptocurrency reporter years ago, and Tom Emmer was the leading House member on the block. What was it called? It wasn't the Crypto Caucus. I think it was called the Blockchain Caucus. I might have it wrong, but it was a caucus that was focused on crypto. This is a bit before cryptocurrency turned into a right wing fucking pathetic cesspool here in the United States. But Emmer was a normal person, and I remember covering him actually for the crypto community, and recognizing him as a principled conservative, who I disagreed with on almost all issues, but I respected him at the time as a principled conservative. Now he's just It's like the MAGA extremist, in Congress, the Lauren Boeberts, when it comes to being an extremist in everything, but the Epstein files, she's on the right side of history with that. Nancy Mace, Andy Biggs, Andy Ogles, all of these whack job MAGA extremists, Randy, the dipshit Fine, like all these members of the House who are real MAGA sociopaths. In some ways, not much, but in some ways, I have slightly more respect for some of them than I do for characters like Tom Emmer and Steve Scalise, because Emmer and Scalise were not crazy. They were normal. And Scalise, I'm going to get to in 2 seconds. Scalise wasn't just normal, he was extraordinary. And I'm going to explain why. You may not remember, you may not know, you may not care. But Scalise was extraordinary for one reason and one reason only. But they surrendered everything: their dignity, their integrity, their intellect. I mean, they act like the dumbest buffoons just to survive as politicians of merit. Well, merit's the wrong word, but politicians that matter in the MAGA echo chamber, in that space. And they're just so pathetic. And Randy Fine, the congressman from Florida, he may be an Islamophobic, performative, raging, racist, half-witted putz. There's no question about that. He's pathetic. But at some level, that shameful disgrace of a human being has more dignity than Tom Emmer or Steve Scalise, because Randy Fine only became a fake Republican and a fake congressman by performing and then subsequently becoming a total fucking bigot, racist, scumbag asshole. He clearly uses his racism, used his stupidity, his ignorance to become a congressman, man in the only moment he ever could, which is when you had that type of person, to even a greater extreme as the president of the United States, and you had a third of the country, less than a third now, deluded into members of the MAGA cult, deluded into believing all this stuff. But Tom Emmer and Steve Scalise are more pathetic because they have really unsuccessfully morphed in to the biggest MAGA wannabe idiots that you could possibly see. And it's so sad watching these two fools just make bigger fools of themselves. So Steve Scalise is an exceptional disappointment because Scalise, I'm going to play, let me just play the clip first. Let me just play the clip, the Scalise clip first, and then we'll kind of go from there.
The president keeps saying that the California election was rigged. What evidence have you seen to show that there has been widespread fraud that has caused this election to be stolen towards the president?
Well, if you look over the years, what our concerns have been is on this wide scale where they mail ballots to everybody, and then they have vote harvesting in California. And in other states do this too, not many, but in states that do, I think where you really have a lot of voter anger, and you're seeing it in Los Angeles right now, even in their mayor's race, where you had wide changes after election night in the results of an election. And for days and weeks later, they just keep finding ballots until the election results change. Look, whether you can prove fraud or not, it does undermine voter integrity in the vote, and whether they keep going through with that process. Most states have their elections resolved on election night. You look at, I think it's raised a lot of skepticism among voters when they see these wide changes days and weeks after the election, and you still can't get a result 2-3 weeks after an election happened. Why not have all of your elections take place on election day and have the results that night? Florida used to have problems years ago, and they fixed their problems. And now you get the results by usually 9:30 at night in a large state like Florida. It obviously can be done if you choose to do it. And if you don't, it just undermines a lot of people's faith in those elections. Yes, ma'am.
So now, before I get into Scalise, the reason he's so pathetic is that imagine, on the one hand, if he would be capable of performing as a full-on MAGA nutcase, right? If he could be Randy Fine or Andy Oogles, right? If Steve Scalise didn't have some semblance of a conscience left in there, if he could really kind of devolve to the pinnacle of his significant levels of indecency, right? If he could really become Trumpian, imagine if this again was Randy Fine or Andy Ogles. What you would hear them saying, what you would hear him saying is that California's cheating, and there were thousands, hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants that voted in this election, and I know that, and it's and they, they should be thrown in jail, and the Muslims there are are winning in California, and they're going to institute Sharia law. You would hear that's what you would hear from an Andy Ogles or a Randy Fine, true MAGA nut, right? True MAGA nut, or Donald Trump, the king of the MAGA nuts. But Scalise can't do that because he's not able to completely let go of the fact that he's still a little bit normal, right? That this is all a show, this is all a performance, and he's unable to morph into this is what makes him even more pathetic. He's unable to shift into being a once normal principled person into a total fucking nut job, right? So he's always him and Tom Emmer, to a lesser extent Mike Johnson, they're always trying to straddle this weird line between trying to maintain some bit of dignity, some bit of integrity, trying to look like statesmen, normal statesmen, but yet trying to be adequately crazy, racist, bigoted, Islamophobic, and stupid enough to be attractive to the MAGA base. And it's an impossible balancing act because you can't be there. I don't know. I haven't spoken to the MAGA community, but I'm sure they disrespect Steve Scalise as much as I disrespect Steve Scalise because he's a wannabe. And he can't be. He can only try. So that's what makes him so pathetic. Now we're going to get specifically in a couple of moments to California. We're going to refute the bullshit about the cheating in California, refute the bullshit about that Steve Scalise is perpetuating here. But I want to finish up with Steve Scalise first because I think his story is indicative. It's the extreme of so many congressional Republicans and House Republicans and Senate Republicans who are so pathetic that they just can't go full MAGA, but they can't bring themselves to be normal either. So they just have to just fail in straddling this line until they eventually get kicked out of Congress because they get primaried. Because at some point they go against something that Donald Trump insisted upon, and they get kicked out and they get primaried, and then they try to develop some sense of courage afterwards. Some of them, it's Steve Scalise is heading down that road. Tom Emmer are heading down that road as well. What makes Steve Scalise such an extreme story, if you're not familiar with Scalise's story, I don't remember what year it was. It was several years ago. Scalise was participating in a congressional softball game. This game happens every year. I assume it still goes on. And it generally was a left-wing extremist open fire on the field. I think I don't remember how many people were injured. I feel like I know he was killed. I can't remember. Let's see. Is Gamer here? I know Gamer will know this. Hang on. Let me just take a quick look. Hey, Gail. Hey, Jordan and Catherine, how are you guys? Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember how many people were injured or killed, but Scalise was very severely injured. He was shot. He almost didn't make it. Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House at the time. The Democrats were in charge of the House. I remember after he was shot, Nancy Pelosi asked everybody to pray for him to survive. And I'm not religious, but I did in whatever way I can pray, which is, not terribly effective, I don't think. But I hated what happened, and I didn't agree with Scalise on anything, but I didn't think he deserved this. And Scalise, over a period of weeks and months, not only survived, but he found his way back to the House chamber. And I remember how emotional and proud Nancy Pelosi was when she announced his return. I almost feel emotional like thinking about it, because it was such a wonderful moment for the country, and for Scalise. It was such a wonderful moment that this conservative person that I so incredibly disagreed with on every issue, but my red line was certainly stepped over when he was shot by, in what was in essence a left-wing domestic terrorist, right? I hated that. And I loved the story of Scalise coming back. He had a cane, he hobbled onto the House floor, and he got a wonderful applause from both sides of the aisle. And it was just an incredible moment. I remember it really, really well. And he continued to get better. You eventually saw him. He had the cane for months and months, if not a year, if not longer. But he continued to get better, and he's now, looks like the guy that you just saw in that video. And to see someone overcome such terrible odds, like, and the idiot was president at the time. It was his first presidency, so it must have been like 2017 or something that this happened. To see Scalise overcome such odds was just remarkable, right? And I was able to feel not just great for him personally, for his family, for the country, but I thought a little better myself, because I thought, as much as we had the Trumpian idiot in power, and COVID hadn't hit yet, and it just felt like there was hope. There was a common ground that we'd be able to find, and together we would be able to stand up to the problems in the country, including the most stupid and egregious Donald Trumpian things. But then it didn't really go that way, right? As Scalise got better physically, like the rest of the Republican Party, he slowly started to surrender during the first administration to Trump's stupidity. He just was another pathetic politicizer of masks during the first administration. He who was blessed to live is surely responsible for many who died unnecessarily, because he went along with that fucking bullshit. He who was so blessed to live and had the best health care, on the planet, so that he could survive, was eager to take the health care, because Donald Trump didn't like Obama, because Obama was a black president, and Trump hated that. And Trump wanted to get rid of Obamacare. Not that Trump was capable of understanding Obamacare, because he wasn't. It's the worst deal anybody's ever had. It's a horrible deal. It's a horrible. Oh, that's my new thing. When I do my Trump impressions now, I'm going to, from time to time, or maybe every time, I'm going to add in falling asleep. It was a horrible deal. It was just the worst. Nobody can believe it was such a bad deal. All right. Enough of that nonsense. But Scalise, I just entertained myself. I find it probably wasn't funny, but I just find that funny. I don't know. Sometimes my wife says you know, the narcissist in me, I like to make myself laugh. Anyway, watching Scalise devolve during that first administration was sad, but it wasn't like it was political. It wasn't personal. I didn't. I still had a lot of respect for him for how much he overcame, and as much as I kind of lost respect for so many Republican members of the House and the Senate during Trump's first term, I kind of held on to a little bit of it, a little bit of respect for Scalise because of what he had overcome. Like that superseded what I assumed at the time was just his ambitious efforts to pretend to be an idiot, right? To benefit, so Donald Trump would be happy with him. And, then Biden won, and Scalise was a thorn in Biden's side to a limited extent. He's a pathetic politician. He's a weak politician, so he doesn't really, like, nobody listens to him. I don't know that you would have even heard, had I not played Scalise's clip for you today, I imagine you'd have never heard about it. And I would imagine, I would bet dollars to donuts that not a single one of you have heard Scalise speak, even one time, since Donald Trump's been president the second time around. So that's that. And if that's true, that's clearly indicative of how totally irrelevant he is as a Republican politician. But, and he's a leader. He's he's in leadership of the House. So there's that. But as I watched him during the second Trump administration become this like just utterly pathetic Trumpian ass-kissing toad who the MAGAs hate because they know he's fake, and who I don't hate him. I don't hate anyone, but I have no respect for him because he's such a weak coward. Watching things like this where he doesn't believe this. He's not Randy Fine. He's not crazy or stupid. Randy Fine is legitimately stupid and probably crazy or pretend crazy, but he's legitimately a moron, right? He's not Andy Ogles, who is just a raging racist dunce that you wouldn't hire Andy Ogles to walk your dog because you would be afraid that your dog probably wouldn't come back in one piece. But he's just, he's a MAGA dipshit, and that's all that's necessary. Loyal to the idiot and hates Muslims and hates immigrants. That's all that you need, right? To get that job in Congress, in the House of Representatives, in certain MAGA, red districts. I don't know that that's going to be the case in 2026, but it certainly was up until 2026. But Scalise isn't that, and he's no longer a person of dignity. Like I've said multiple times, he's pathetic. And although it's taken a while, because I put a lot of stock in someone who can overcome the nightmare that he overcame. But I have reached the point where watching him during the second Trump term being this pathetic, where I have tremendous respect and admiration for the person who he was, for the thing that he overcame, but for the person that he is now, I have absolutely no respect, absolutely no admiration for who he was. And who he is, or who he pretends to be now, is an embarrassment and a disgrace to the dignity of who he once was. He should be ashamed of himself. In this case, he literally, his former self is, and you can see it in his face, you can see it in the way he acts. His former self is absolutely ashamed of his present self. And he's so fucking pathetic. So this weak-willed, lame-o effort to try to push the California corrupt election narrative is just as it's just as ridiculous and pathetic as he is. The MAGAs would watch this if they cared enough about him. They would watch this performance and they would look at him as just a total and fucking complete joke. I look at this performance as a total and complete joke. And now, based on that rather opinionated analysis that I just shared with you of Steve Scalise, I want to play the clip for you again and, watch it. See if having playing it again after kind of sharing my thoughts and my perspective on this, see if it makes sense. See if he looks the way I'm suggesting. And if you disagree with me, that's okay too. And then what I'm going to do is play this again. And if you want to put it in the comments, certainly do. If not, that's okay too. But please just take another 1 minute and 37 seconds and watch this again. And I just want to see your take on it. And then as soon as we finish this, we're going to go to Democracy Docket for some real fact checking on what's actually going on in California and why it actually takes a long time to count the ballots in California. Spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with fraud. It actually has everything to do with the polar opposite. But watch this clip.
The president keeps saying that the California election was rigged. What evidence have you seen to show that there's been widespread fraud that has caused this election to be stolen towards the president?
Well, if you look over the years, what our concerns have been is on this wide scale where they mail ballots to everybody and then they have vote harvesting in California. And in other states do this too, not many, but in states that do, I think where you really have a lot of voter anger, and you're seeing it in Los Angeles right now, even in their mayor's race, where you had wide changes after election night in the results of an election. And for days and weeks later, they just keep finding ballots until the election results change. Look, whether you can prove fraud or not, it does undermine voter integrity in the vote, and whether they keep going through with that process. Most states have their elections resolved on election night. You look at,
Evidence of those ballots that are being counted were illegal in any
I think it's raised a lot of skepticism among voters when they see these wide changes days and weeks after the election, and you still can't get a result 2-3 weeks after an election happened. Why not have all of your elections take place on election day and have the results that night? Florida used to have problems years ago, and they fixed their problems. And now you get the results by usually 9:30 at night in a large state like Florida. It obviously can be done if you choose to do it. And if you don't, it just undermines a lot of people's faith in those elections. Yes, ma'am.
So there you go. So to me, he's just pathetic. He doesn't believe what he's talking about. He knows it's not true. And he just he's so pathetic. And I almost hesitate to say this because I almost don't want to put this out into the world and have it come back to me. But, our opinions change from moment to moment. So this may not be the way I feel tomorrow. But I have more respect. Respect is the wrong word because I don't have any respect for the people I'm going to mention. I think there's more of a absolutely disgusting and profane honesty from a racist, bigoted dipshit moron like Randy Fine than there is from just a pathetic, enabling, ass-kissing toad like Steve Scalise. And I think this is the irony. This is what I think is, when this is all said and done, when MAGA finally crashes and burns, not just at the presidential level, but at the congressional level as well, Randy Fine, as much of a sick fuck as he is, and Andy Ogles, when they, in 2028, or maybe even in 2026, we'll find out, right? When they are stunned and surprised and can't believe that they haven't been reelected, they're going to walk away feeling good about their awful selves because they're true to themselves. They really are they really are the garbage that comes out of their mouths. So they're not going to walk away feeling like they sold out because they really are the racist trash that they profess to be. When this guy, Congressman Scalise, winds up being, you know, removed from office, not removed, but winds up eventually not being reelected. And I know you're thinking Louisiana senior member of Republican member of Congress, deep red state. I don't be surprised if there's a surprise in 2026 for a clown like this. Don't be surprised, especially if there's a populist Democrat, even a Democratic socialist that runs against him. I don't know who's running against him in his district, but don't be surprised. But whether it's then or it's 2028, but when he leaves office, like George Santos in a different way, he'll leave in shame, embarrassed by who he was or who he pretended to be. And he deserves every bit of it. Hey, Irish Aggie. It's good to see you. Gail, our concern is that the people of California hate us. That's exactly it, Gail. You know, I tend to over philosophize this stuff, maybe over intellectualize it. In the end, it's just that, you know, they're mad because California hates them and hates MAGA Republicans for the most part. Anyway, so let's get to the truth now. Democracy Docket is always the place to go to when you need voting, when you need clarification on a voting voting misinformation. Bottom line, and we'll read some of the reporting, is this. California is the largest state in the country. It's got the most voters, period, end of story. That's one reason things go so slow in California. Secondly, things go so slow in California because California also has laws that ensure that everybody gets to vote. Every legal citizen in California has a right to vote, and California goes above and beyond, as the Constitution implies and requires, to make sure that everybody who can vote legally does vote. And one of the ways they do that is, I believe, and we'll confirm this when we read the reporting, I believe that as long as the mail-in ballot is postmarked by election day, I think they have up to 7 days for that mail-in ballot to arrive. It still has to get counted, and they have to wait for that. And it can be a long waiting game because every single citizen in California, I assume if they have an address, gets a mail-in ballot mailed to them. And most of California votes through mail-in ballots. So that process alone takes a long time. Secondly, California is probably the most responsible state when it comes to election integrity, because there are multiple levels of checking that are incredibly time-consuming with the sheer number of votes that come in that guarantee, to the extent that you can guarantee anything, that guarantee electoral integrity, and that people who are not registered to vote don't vote, and that people don't vote twice. Every signature is manually cross-checked against the signature that, the voter registration signature. So every single signature is cross-checked on a mail-in ballot. I'm trying to remember there's a few other things, and I might have to just read them because I may not recall them offhand. But there's a few other, to further ensure that everybody gets the right to vote, if there is a discrepancy, signatures don't seem to match, someone forgot a signature, the state of California reaches out to them, which is incredibly time-consuming. Instead of just throwing it out like, I don't know, Florida or Tennessee or anywhere that want to repress the vote would do, the state of California says this person tried to vote. Maybe it was an illegal vote, But we're going to confirm that. We're going to investigate them. And if it was just simply a mistake, if, say, you have an elderly person who just simply forgot to sign their mail-in ballot in rural California, we're going to try our best to reach out to them and let them know that their signatures don't match. Have them come in, go through a process to cross-check their signatures, and make sure that their right to vote is not taken away because they made a mistake. That's also one of the reasons why it's so time-consuming. There's a few other reasons. Let's read through them, though. Why does California, because I can't remember them, why does California take so long to count ballots? President Donald Trump, the village idiot, I'm saying that, Democracy Docket isn't saying that, and his GOP allies are continuing to use California's unfinished primary vote count to push baseless election fraud claims after Los Angeles mayoral candidate Spencer Pratt, a Republican slipped to third place. He slipped to third place because he's nuts, right? And unfortunately, if you're completely out of your mind, it's hard to get elected in a blue state if you're ignorant and you're crazy. It's hard. It's easy. Well, it's becoming less easy, but it's been easy to get elected into a deep red mega district up until recently. If you're crazy, they like that, right? But Democrats still aren't that into that, right? Independents aren't really all that crazy about crazy. Quote, not possible for Spencer Pratt to have lost LA runoffs after the big lead he had, the idiot wrote on Truth Social. Quote, third world nation, rigged elections, exclamation point. Third world nation, rigged elections. I'm going to tell you they're rigged. They're rigged. Rigged. You're horrible. You're horrible. Your elections, I can just, the elections I won. Rigged. Pratt's early second-place standing made him a cause célèbre for, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. By the way, I will be able to pronounce it soon. I am learning French. My son, my wife, and I got this app called Duolingo, and we're all committed to learning French. We might go to France this summer. Plan was to go to France and Spain this summer. Finally take a vacation for the first time since before COVID, like a international vacation. But then this fucking war and price of airfare. We have our hotels booked in Spain. We don't have our France hotels booked yet. We might, but we weren't going, and we'll see what it. Maybe we'll go. But just in case we go to either one of them or both of them still, we're learning French as much as we can. So I will be able to say that word, whatever that word was, eventually. Pratt's early second-place standing made him a cause célèbre for, maybe that's how you do it, for election deniers falsely accusing California officials of trying to keep a Republican out of the runoff. In fact, California's evolving count is the predictable result of the state's pro-voting policies, which require election officials to verify and count millions of valid ballots before certifying the final results, as well as its sheer size. California's primary results are not final, and vote totals are often change after election night as counties complete the canvasses. The formal process of verifying ballots, auditing results, and certifying the final count. In Los Angeles, the shift was especially predictable. Ballots counted later in California are often mail-in ballots. And in recent elections, Democrats have been more likely than Republicans to vote by mail. California takes longer than many states to count votes for a mix of logistical and legal reasons, from the sheer size of its electorate to the state's rules for mail-in ballots, signature verification, and voter protections that give people time to fix certain ballot issues. Those rules can make close races look unsettled for days or weeks after election night, but they also help ensure eligible voters are not disenfranchised. And ironically, they also help catch any illegitimate ballots that shouldn't be counted, exactly what the idiot and his allies attack the state for not doing enough on. Quote, and I'm just kind of late. I'll end it here. I mean, I'll read a little. There's a couple of sub paragraphs. I'll read just the headlines of those because I think it'll be clear. Quote: California's county election officials are hard at work counting the millions of ballots cast by California voters in the June 2nd primary election, ensuring accuracy and preserving the integrity of the vote. California Secretary of State Shirley Weber said after the primaries concluded, quote, California state law allows up to 30 days after Election Day to complete counting, auditing, and certification, but our commitment is immediate. In California, every ballot is counted properly and every ballot is accounted for. Here are some reasons why California's election results can feel more drawn out. Now, we're just going to go over the headlines. I'm not going to read each detailed paragraph. California is huge. Right. It's the simplest reason California takes longer than many other states to count votes is because it's obvious. It's enormous. There are more than 23 million voters heading into the June primary. It's a lot. I'd love to see Florida handle that, or Oklahoma, or Montana, or Tennessee, or Alabama. California is a universal vote by mail state. California is one of 8 states that sends mail-in ballots to all registered voters. Most Californians use them. In the state's recent election, 90% of voters, nearly 90% of the voters cast their ballots by mail. California counts ballots mailed on time, even if they arrive after Election Day. California does not count any ballots after Election Day, but it does count mail-in ballots that were cast on time and arrive later. Under state law, mail-in ballots must be postmarked on or before Election Day and received by county election officials no later than 7 days after the election. For this year's primary, that means ballots postmarked by June 2nd primaries can still be counted if they arrive by June 9th, which is today. California election officials must verify ballots before counting them. I'm not going to read this whole part here. I don't want to bore you with that, but there's a verification process. California lets voters fix their votes so they can count. I just want you to understand the timing on this. California's process also continues after election night because the state gives voters time to fix certain ballot problems to ensure their vote can count. For example, if a mail-in ballot is missing a signature or the signature does not match the voter's registration record, election officials contact the voter and give them time to a chance to correct it. The process is known as ballot curing and is often designated to make sure voters are not disenfranchised because of technicalities. These ballots can be counted. These cannot be counted until the issue is resolved, so forth and so on. I thought they would give you a ballot fixed after election night is not a new vote. It is not a vote cast after the deadline. It is a ballot that was already returned and is being counted only after the voter confirms for the information needed to verify it. And that's the story. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up because there's a lot of news about that. If you get into a debate with someone about this, a friend, a family member, now you have a couple of talking points that you may be able to utilize. I know facts don't work with cult members, but you never know. Every so often something breaks through. Lacey, Trump has been horrible to Los Angeles with the immigration raids and threatening to withhold funds. That his bootlicker didn't make it isn't all that surprising. That's an excellent point, Lacey. He's been and there right now you have members of Congress and the village idiot threatening that they're going to withhold federal funds from California because California is cheating on elections. So, and you know what? Let them do it. Let them do it because there are a couple of deep red congressional districts in California, farming districts. Former Congressman Devin Nunes, I don't know which Republican has that seat now, but it's a farming district in California. And always reliably red. Those, those folks, those farmers are probably struggling if they're in business at all because their workers are gone. I don't know if you can find a farm worker in California that is not an American who's going to want $22 an hour. And even if you can, I don't think you're going to find an American citizen who even wants $22 an hour, and you'll give it to them, who's going to work picking, you know, asparagus in California, strawberries. So I don't know, let them take federal funding from California right now. Those farmers are probably pissed in Devin Nunes's former district, and this might let them just push further and further and further, and this might be the reason that one or more of those districts turns red. Now, I don't know if Devin Nunes's district was affected by the redistricting or not, so that may his. I'm just using his as an example. Let's see. He has damaged California, starting with the fires. Gail, that's a great, absolute, no doubt, no question. They remember. Wasn't it during the first term, or was it? It was the first term. It wasn't this term, right? When the idiot was like, "You got to get out there. You got to bring the rakes. You got to bring the rakes, and you're gonna rake it." The problem is, they just need to clean up the leaves. It's not in 5 It's not that hard. Newscomb doesn't know what he's doing. You clean up the leaves. Get a couple of rakes and get out there and rake up the leaves. And you're not gonna. I could solve the problem in 5 minutes. They withheld disaster relief. Bonta has brought over 90 lawsuits. Yes, I'd like to see MAGA picking food. Yeah, the leaves. What's Bonta, Gail? Oh, Bonta. What is that? I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm curious. Can you rake the forest? That's right. Remember Beth? But yeah, if you, I mean, if you don't feel like it, Gail, I don't want to pressure you. But if you can explain it, I'm curious what Bonta is. Bonta. Oh, that's the current AG. Is that the current AG? So Bonta has brought over 90 lawsuits. Okay, yeah, I apologize. I don't know who they are. Like I don't. I probably should know who the AG of California is, but I don't. But thank you for clarifying it. Hi, Grandpa. Welcome. I don't think we've seen you here before. And if you have, my apologies for not noticing before. Patty Ann. Oh, nice, Gail. We are the people that want now instead of waiting patiently for accurate results. Here in I'm sorry. I know you guys are having a conversation, and I take a look at the chat going from bottom up instead of top down. So I don't know what. Half the time I don't know what people are talking about because I'm at the bottom of the conversation and not the top when I come back and see what's going on in the chat. Let's just do a quick check on Twitch. Nobody's here on Twitch. Oh, one person. Hi. Welcome. Twitch is fairly new space for me. So hopefully as I clean up my Twitch profile a little bit and start spending a little bit more time on there, we'll start to build a community on Twitch. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Anyway, guys, that's the story today. I'm keeping it short and sweet. I mean, it's been almost 48 minutes, so it's not that short, but it's always sweet. I'm nothing if not sweet. I'm fantastic. Very sweet. I'm the sweetest president. I'm your favorite president. And I'm so sweet. They all tell me, like sugar, like your favorite chocolate. I'm your favorite president. I'm your favorite president. I'm sorry. I just feel like it's important to, when I do my Trump voice, to fall asleep doing it. Anyway, that's it for today, guys, at least for this live. I'm still working on trying to get those multiple lives in. Not doing that great a job of it, but I'm working on it, my friends. And the recorded, I did get a new chair, though. Do you guys see? Look at this. It was a gaming chair. I don't really know if I like it. It doesn't have like lumbar support, but I do have these things. I was using just like a regular chair from a poker table. Not that we ever play poker. That's what I used to use up until yesterday. But then I saw this chair like 3 weeks ago at HomeSense. I don't know if they have HomeSense where you are. HomeSense is like Home Goods. It's the same company. They just call it HomeSense. And so I saw this exact chair in HomeSense, and it was $200. And I don't know. I couldn't bring myself to spend $200 on an office chair, but it was really nice, and I didn't get it. And then like 4 days later, I was like, I probably should get that. I really need a better chair. So I went back to HomeSense, and of course it was gone. Like with Home Goods, HomeSense, you got to get whatever shit's there when it's there because it's never going to be there again. So I just gave up, and I've been looking for a chair, my friends. And my wife, we had to take my wife needed to run to Home Goods on Saturday because she gets her reading glasses there. And my son and I were in the car, and I said, you know what? Can you check for a chair? And she's inside, and she takes a picture and texts it to me, and lo and behold, it's the same chair. So we bought it. It's a fantastic chair. I love the chair. Only problem is it's so comfortable. I'm not a gamer, so it doesn't have lumbar support, but it kind of looks cool. But the problem with it is, like when I sit back in it, which is kind of what it's for, then I kind of schlump down, and I'm kind of out of shape. So, I can hide my out of shapeness. I need to start working out. Like when I'm sitting like this, you really can't see how out of shape I am. But when I kind of go here, the tummy comes up. It's this mess here, and I'm kind of schlumped over, kind of like Trump. Because how he's kind of like this now. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic. I'm fantastic. So I want a chair that like keeps me, like this, like straight, and that keeps me like this. But I'll keep it. Branch has good ergonomic chairs, but expensive though. Gail, yeah, I didn't look at Branch. I looked at several different ergonomic brands. I don't even remember what they are, but I'm pretty sure I didn't look at the Branch ones, but they were. I mean, they were really pricey. They were like, there's chairs like $800, $1,000, $400, $600. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I mean, I'm sure with the amount of time I spend in it, I think it would be a worthy purchase, especially as I get older. I never had lower back problems, but I have had a couple of instances. One really, the worst one I ever had was like 4 or 5 months ago, where that lower back, like that happened to me, like that lower back where you can't where like, I don't know what the fuck it is. I know it's muscular in my time. When it happens to me, I know it's muscular because I can work it out with massage and stretching and stuff. But like where do you guys get this like with your lower back it's some shit I never fucking had until 57 years old. But like you can't to get up, you gotta do shit like this. Like you gotta pull these up, and this hurts, and then you gotta do shit like you gotta go like this. You gotta work your way. Like you ever got you guys? I'm sure so. Just I can't just go like this or you got to do just to get up. You got to do this kind of shit where you're slowly turning your body and then you got to kind of go like this and and then somebody tries to help you. You're like, no, fuck you! Don't help me! Get the fuck away! And the dog's away, and everybody's like, what are you? Why are you so? Because it's gonna hurt. I gotta do it myself. And then the dog's freaking out now. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Everything's fine. Everything's fine, Lilith. Say hi to Pixie, everyone. I know I can't She doesn't do well. She's too high strung. But you know, if you get that, you know what I'm talking about. All right, Pixie, we're good. We're good. Everything's fine. You go back down. Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your concern. She's a fantastic dog. I don't like dogs. They're dirty. They're very dirty. They got germs. I don't like germs, but this one is fantastic. All the dogs voted for me. Every dog, all the dogs. I'm telling you, the dogs love me. Especially the black ones, the dogs that are black, the African American dogs, they love me. The Puerto Rican, the Latin dogs, they love me. They voted for me by 97%, and I got the Latin dog vote. The liberal dogs, though, I can't stand them. The liberal dogs, They're crazy. The liberal lunatics, but they even voted for me by 89% of the vote. The dog. And this one, Pixie, she's a horrible dog. But she voted for me and I love it. She's a nice dog. I'm sorry. Oh, so thank you. Okay. All right, my friends. On that note, we've got to stop the madness. What time is it? It's almost 12 o'clock anyway. I've got to see if I can. I have to call an accountant. That's what I need to do because we really, really desperately need an accountant. We've got. I'll tell you about it. I'm not going to waste your time now. We've got like our last. I'll just tell you this. Our previous accountant, who we've had for 20 years, fucked up royally. I don't like to play the victim. I have to be responsible for my own shit. But this guy fucked up, right? I had our company. We had it as what they call a limited liability company or an LLC for the last 3 years. And when I started making a little money, he suggested we turn into an S corp. And we changed it into an S corp, and it didn't feel right. But he's like, just do it, Mitch. But there was a whole shit ton of legal requirements that an S corp has to have that I didn't know about, and I should have researched. And it's very hard to undo this shit once you do it. So I had him do it. I paid him $400. He turned us into an S corp. Then he did our taxes like he does every year, and he fucked up our taxes, which was weird. My wife caught it. I didn't, and she went back to him and she was like, "You fucked up our taxes." My wife would never say that, but she was like, "What's going on?" And he argued with her, and then she pointed it out to him, our state taxes. And he was like, "Oh shit, I fucked up your taxes." So he fixed the tax fuck up. I mean, it was like a $3,000 tax fuck up, so it was meaningful. A refund. So he fucked that up, and then I suddenly realized after doing a little bit of research that this S corp thing is terrible for us. And I started calling him, and he just did not return my phone calls. And then I really am worried because with this S corp, we're not taking our tax. I'm taking taxes out, but it is not following the rules of the S corp. And there were some name change problems that I made some mistakes over the last 3 years because we changed the name of the company a couple times, and I forgot to. I just never thought that I had to contact the IRS after I changed so there's like our S corp name doesn't match our state name. It's just a total clusterfuck. And then, so we need it's going to cost us a good chunk of change to fix it, but you got to fix it. Only Donald Trump and Republicans can cheat on their taxes. We have to be in compliance and do it the right way. And I wouldn't want to do it any other way. So I've called several accountants, but just haven't. And I finally found one, but he hasn't gotten back to me yet. So I have a feeling that the mess we have might have just been more overwhelming for him than he led on to. So that's what I'm going to do now. I want to get this video edited and up. This recording of this, and I want to see if I can find an accountant today. What a terrible story about your accountant. I get nervous with all that stuff because I don't understand it. I don't either, Lacey. He is fired. You're fired. You're a horrible accountant. You're fired. We're going to let you go. But I never fired him because he just ghosted us. He just disappeared. I'm actually he's such a, I don't want to badmouth him too badly because he is such an incredibly nice guy. Like he is the Yiddish word is a mensch. He is a good guy. I don't know what, I'm worried there might be something physically wrong with him. He might be ill. I hope not. But he didn't just, once I get started, I can't stop talking. He didn't just like fuck up our S corp he didn't just fuck up our state tax. Like Ritu and I never, until now that we have a business, we've got to take this more seriously, but we never really look at our tax return. We just trust him. We put together all the shit that he needs every year. We send it over to him, and we just trust him to do our taxes, and the taxes come back, and we get a refund because with Ritu's job, she always overpays into her taxes. And, the company was really not making any money until this year. So we were always at a loss because we'd buy shit for the company. They were they were, they were things you could write off, but it wasn't making any money. So we never looked at our tax returns. We just assumed he wasn't fucking it up. But after all of the other mistakes happened, when I looked at the tax returns this year, I was like, couldn't believe what I was seeing. There's a company mentioned on our tax returns. It was Ritu. My wife, when she started out her career, she started out as an exercise physiologist at the hospital where she still works at now. She's a transplant social worker now, but her original job 30 years ago, she went to college to get undergraduate in exercise physiology. She became, she'd be like the person as an exercise. If you go to cardiac rehab, she was like one of the people in cardiac rehab who would work you out. And at the same time, she also she would have a side hustle with a little company where she did massage therapy. She was a licensed massage therapist. She was also my wife is very into like certifications. She's got a shit ton of them now in wellness. I mean, I don't get certified for much of anything, and I probably should, but she gets certified for everything. So she balances me out for all the things I'm unqualified to do. She's qualified to do everything in the world. So she became a her massage company has been, she hasn't done it in at least as long as we've been married, which is going to be 14 years in August. But we never really look at the tax returns. So we didn't realize that for the last 14 years, he's probably been putting that company on our tax returns. And that company is gone, dissolved, nothing, history doesn't exist. And he knows that. So I don't know what the hell's going on. I think he just might be just a super nice guy and a really shitty accountant. But anyway, that's more information than you needed or that you asked for. But my life's an open book. We don't know his name, so it's okay. You're right, Gail. You're absolutely right. So yes, it's perfectly safe. There's no infractions here with privacy laws. Not that there are any. I could probably tell you his name, but and I think, Lacey, to your comment, I really don't understand it and I hate it, but I as much as Ritu's not gonna learn it, and somebody's got to know what the fuck is going on. So because if your accountant cheats, I don't know if you guys know this, but if your accountant defrauds the government and cheats on taxes, you're still going to jail for it or having to pay a fine or getting audited. The accountant may get in trouble too, but you're still responsible if your accountant fucks up without your knowledge. Again, unless you're Donald Trump or a Republican, and it's a federal, a crime that rises to the federal level, that they can just pardon you for. You can evade your taxes then. But for the rest of us, if your accountant cheats for you or even without your knowledge, you are responsible for that. So I'm educating myself now to at least know what they're doing and how they're doing it. Also, it helps me spend less money with them, because if you know what they're doing, you can communicate effectively with them, and maybe they don't have to do everything that they're doing. So it's helpful there. We listen and we don't judge. That's awesome. Thank you, Patty Ann. On that note, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time, my friends. We just keep chunking through this. And that's how we get through. Oh, the dog's here. Somehow I know she, all right, little girl. I know she does not understand English, but she must sense the pattern of sounds of 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. She must be like conditioned behaviorally to understand that those sounds mean that I'm done. And that amazes me. That's it. Love you guys. See you later today or tomorrow. Watch for at least a recorded live later today. This recording will go up soon, but I'm going to try to squeeze one in. Okay. Twitter.